recording a show.
Just think if it was a hive mind, everyone would have no choice but to observe the live stream. It'd be like, I was planning to think about something else, but God fucking hive
You
mind.
talk as if nobody would like to watch this video.
No, people just, I
Would,
like my
would it be
thoughts.
3 sections of the hive mind arguing? Would the section still be uninformed?
There's this really angry part of the hive mind that's just us hanging out and talking about shit. All right, so I'm just making sure the live stream is up. And we'll begin in like a second. Internal server error. Oh no. Wow, the live stream feature is like broken. Sorry guys. Just checking the stream health. The stream health says green, so we're good. Perfect. Okay. Are you ready to get started, my friend? My friend, Mr. Crofton? Mr. Crofton Steers, ready to get started? All right, Good, Bad, or Bullshit, episode 153 begins recording in 5, 4, oh, no, a little longer, sorry. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to the Good, Bad, or Bullshit podcast. My name is Crofton Steers. I am the Butch Cassidy of this podcast. With me are my two friends, colleagues, and co-hosts. First, please welcome the Sundance Kid to my Butch Cassidy. I am talking, of course, about Mike Hodgins. Michael, welcome.
Sweet. As far as I know, there's two. The movie's called Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I guess Bo is like extra number 4 who gets shot.
And please welcome the second co-host, our horse, Bo Schwartz.
Ah. Can he be the pack mule? I don't want to ride him.
Yeah.
Here.
We both get on. He's like, whoa, one at a time, please. How are you, gents?
Well, I ate some straw today, and it was very good, but I prefer carrots.
Quiet horse. Carrot? My day was well.
So I'm because this is going to be airing after this event, I can talk about it. I'm actually in the process of organizing my mom's 70th birthday.
The big 7-0.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because it's my mother is widowed, which a lot of older people are at this point, and so like the significant other can't be necessarily counted on to organize the big day. So my brother and I are just sitting around and we're like, how old's mom turning this year? And then we did some quick math, realized it was 70 and started freaking out. And we're like, what are we supposed to do? And so I've orchestrated all this sort of web of lies to surprise my mom on the weekend. But I'm just a little concerned because my brother says I'm not a good liar. He says I keep adding details to the stories that are unnecessary and complicating things. So
I would say it's probably true. If you're gonna like lie, and you need to make up, a cover story, it's like keep the details minimal. But more, if more gets complicated, there's more for you to remember and then trip over when you're like, she's like, didn't you say that? You're like, oh, I just meant.
That's exactly what's happening.
Complex lies.
And I said, and my wife has accused me of overcomplicating lies as well in the past, but in this case, like I said, Nick pointed out stuff like, he's like, why did you tell her that the reservation's at 11:40 instead of 11:30? I'm like, because we're going to get there at 11:40. Everybody else is going to get there at 11:30 so that they can surprise her. And he's like, nobody makes reservations for 11:40. Nobody makes them. And I'm like, but she's like, she's going to be suspicious. She's going to be like, who makes a reservation at 11:40? Clearly there's a surprise happening or whatever. So these are the types of details that I'm
without guile.
My guile is lacking.
Yes. Especially when you could have just said 11:30 and by,
I know, that's what he said.
But yeah, and you just being yourself, you could have been late because that's probably how it would have happened. So she would have been none the wiser.
I know. He said, and just he said like he should have been the one, because I was the one saying we're getting her to go to this restaurant for like, we're making her think that we're just taking her out or whatever. And it's just funny because I was the one that asked her, saying like, hey, mother, I made a reservation, which is true. I did make a reservation, but Nick's like, it's so out of character for you that for sure that set off warning bells.
And you called her mother instead of Barb?
I don't remember.
You call your mom Barb?
He
I do
switches up
sometimes.
a lot.
I do
Whoa.
sometimes to tease
I don't
her.
think I've ever actually referred to my mom with my mother's name.
Yeah, I cannot.
I didn't
When
go
we
like,
were-
"Hey, Heinalka, can you
When we
pass
were
me the ketchup?
kids,
These pretzels are making me thirsty." Go ahead, sorry.
when we were kids, it drove her nuts when we would do that. So we did it to drive her nuts, right?
Okay.
So
As any good tween or teenager will.
and now you're just in the habit of doing it because you did it as a youngster.
correct.
Weird. Yeah, Mike, you ever called your mom like just been like,
Ola?
"Hey Ola,
No.
hey Ola"?
Never did.
I
But I
don't
will
either.
give you credit, Bo. I mean, Crofton. I won't give Bo any credit.
Fuck
But
you.
Crofton, you're a good son. Organizing this was my dad's 70th birthday, like in April, and not only did I not organize anything, he was like, "I want to go to the keg," and I was like, oh, "Okay." And I was like, "I think Wednesday works for me." And then I went, and then I didn't even get him a card. I'm the worst son ever.
Oh god, we got her an iPad Mini.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
Well, if I believed in hell, I'd be surely going there.
that's all right.
My dad's also a weirdo, and he didn't really care anyway.
Well, I think my mom will appreciate it, and we will be good sons. Unlike my loser brother in Calgary who sent me all this money. Wait, I guess
That's
he's
what
not.
lawyers do. They're like, "Here's money. Take care of my problems for me."
Hear that, Dev? You lawyer.
Yeah. He's like, "I wish I could hear it. I'm working 100-hour week again."
Yeah, and I won't ever listen to your podcast.
Well,
Speaking of people who do listen to our podcast, maybe we should get to a random topic.
Yeah. We should find something to talk about. Mike, you got the random topic generator all ready to go?
it's ready.
All right. How's it doing? How's the topic generator doing? By
It's
the way?
holding up, but I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be.
Do we need any of our listeners to send in replacement parts or anything like that? I
No,
feel like
it's old school. It's not what do you call it? Planned obsolescence. It predates that stuff.
it's
not
built
like your
to
iPhone.
last forever. Yeah. Planned obsolescence. That's a term I like. Anyways, let's plan our own obsolescence. Bing.
Ugh. The topic today is malls.
Shopping malls?
Yeah,
No,
I feel
shooting
like
malls.
we did like consumerism not that long ago, and I feel like there was one or two others that kind of touched on.
We're at the point in this show where everything touches on something
Well,
previously
yeah.
that we've done.
I'm touching something right now.
Oh, now, come on, now, Bo, try to keep it together.
He's going. We've lost him. It's too late.
You set him up real good, Crofton.
Shopping malls. It's funny too because in the touching on things, our last episode or one of the last ones was skyscrapers, and I kind of, we've done suburbs, we've done a lot of this sort of urban infrastructure stuff that is related to urban sprawl or just growth or whatever. I feel like this fits in there though, and it ties into consumerism.
I feel like if you were to call, a tall building is called a skyscraper, a mall would be like a ground dragger.
It's like a shit scraper, basically.
They're like, oftentimes they're like one story or two and cover like 15 hectares or something ridiculous. Where you're just
Why don't they have more floors?
Because people are lazy and they don't want to go upstairs, and they're like, and I know there's an escalator, but I have to stand on it, and it goes upwards. It's just such a
Here,
trial.
I'll tell you a story about me in malls. Now, I come from a smallish village or whatever. Not that many stores. There's more now than when I was a kid.
There's no electricity there.
Yeah, barely. They literally rolled logs down the river with like tugboats and stuff when I was growing up. So going into town, especially when I was a teen, going into town, it's about a half an hour drive or so, was a big deal. And going to malls was like, I don't know, I got like, I want to say in my early teens or mid-teens, I had the urge to go to the mall, and this is before digital distribution and stuff like movies and video games and all that. So if you want to see this stuff, you go to the mall. And I was more into stuff like that than clothes, and it wasn't even about hanging out with people. It was just like the idea that all this stuff to look at and junk food to eat and all of this is available in one place. Just it felt like a center of entertainment, I guess, for a teenager. And now, as a adult that hangs out way too much with Mike Hodgins and is developing curmudgeon-y tendencies, I
It's like a virus.
I don't like to go to the mall. Like when I think about having to go to the mall, I'm like, oh, I really don't want to go. Can I just get in and out? And now I'm doing the driving too, so it's like, oh, I got to get parking, and then I got to find my way to whatever I need. Like I just needed to go to the Genius Bar, oxymoronic name for this thing, in the Apple Store the other day, and that's all I needed to do. But all Apple stores, for some reason, are in malls. So I had to park at the mall, which is a huge headache, just to walk in for Apple to tell me to go fuck a dick. And then,
Whoa.
Whoa.
Okay.
sorry, I still have anger against
Wow.
Apple.
Wow. This is
It,
a rated R episode, folks.
Yeah.
Malls. Who'd have thought? We really let it hang out with the mall episode today.
and then I get back in the car, like go up an escalator, get back in the car, whatever, drive out, and I was like, oh God, I'm so glad I'm gone. But once upon a time, I did like it. So I guess my question to you guys is: have you guys ever enjoyed the mall?
I feel like I have a similar experience to you. I grew up in sort of the country where there was no, you know, malls or stores even. So yeah, you go to the mall. What I mostly remember about it, because I had an older brother, and I still do have an older brother.
Oh, he's still alive?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have an older brother, and he liked going to the mall a lot. And he was old enough for me that he'd always walk like, you know, 10, 15 steps ahead of like my mom and me as a slightly younger kid. And I think, for him, and as I got older, I was like, when you live in the country too, like, oh, you might see a girl at the mall, when you're like a tween and you're just like, oh. Whereas when you live in the country, you don't see anyone. so it was like a place to go to see like people, and maybe people your own age when you're a younger person as well. It's kind of like, it is sort of like all ages friendly, a mall. Maybe not toddler or little kid friendly, but like you can go there. So I recall the experience being like my brother would be excited, and like we'd walk around and there'd be like people, and that's and usually that I wound up being tired and wanting to leave and being like, can we go now? Because I was sick of trying on pants, because I hated clothes shopping, and I still hate clothes shopping.
Same here.
Which is why I look so
the
terrible.
young person experience at the mall is commiserate with what you're doing there, which is generally not shopping. You want toys when you're a real little kid, so the only part of the mall trip that interests you is getting fed somewhere awesome and toys. And like the ballroom or whatever playground, if they have one at the mall, you get dropped off at. And as a teenager, it's a place to go loiter. It's just a social. It's just a social place if you're in a local town mall, which I spent a lot of time skateboarding in various parking lots of malls and then hanging out inside for no reason other than to try and get free water off of people and stuff or whatever. So yeah,
free water.
There's probably a water fountain.
Well, people don't love getting snotty ass kids water who's not going to buy anything, and they hang around your thing or whatever. So
gotta watch out for those loser skateboarders and their water drinking,
like the Mallrats movie. So yeah, I kind of dug malls. I mean, not like I wasn't into them, but I spent a lot of time, I guess, skateboarding around parking lots and being around them and pissing off the owners of the place, which is always fun. It's always fun to make honest business people very mad with your awesome hobby.
The Mallrats movie you mentioned, that just made me think. Do you think that the popularity of malls, say in the late 90s, do you think that that's something, because we were all teens at that point and we had different varying interests in the mall. Do you think kids today, sound like an old man, do you think kids today have the same interest in the mall that we did then? Or do you think it's sort of like there was sort of a moment in the zeitgeist with mall rats and other stuff that made malls like cool at that time?
I think malls are huge, man.
They're still big. Because it's still like, as much as there's social media and you might be like connecting with people still like to go and see people and, wear their nice clothes and look good. And especially if you're like a teenager, like I still go to the mall sometimes with my kid when I want to overstimulate his brain. It's not that often, but I go there and be like, oh yeah, there's like lots of people at the mall. It's a place where people go.
Yeah, but the difference I think is, and I could be mistaken, but I feel like culture, like when I was a kid, I just wanted Transformers toys, and as I got older, I just wanted movies and electronics. Like I had very specific niche things I wanted from there. But there are like the mall on a was it? I don't think per capita is the right word, but like on a per square foot basis, unless we're talking about not strip malls, but the box store malls, which we will get to, like the closed-in malls tend to be predominantly clothing stores or appearance-related places, right? And I think there are more and more kids trying to be fashionable. Like I like wearing shitty clothes and a lot of people were like that. Like grunge was a thing, and even there wasn't a big culture. At least when I was growing up, there were some that liked to wear expensive clothes, but cool clothes were fine, and cool clothes could be like shitty. So you didn't have to go to the mall to get the look necessarily. You had to go to like the Rock Junction and get a Rock T-shirt or something like that. Like
or the secondhand store,
or a secondhand store. Like there were places to get this kind of stuff. So I feel like the culture now, like hip hop being predominant, and just like I don't know, I just find I look at a lot of young people and I'm like, man, they have way nicer clothes as young folks than I think I ever did. So I think that's a thing. So I think malls are more popular now because of it.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I do feel like it's like the '90s had kind of a bit of a counterculture thing going. Not that it was like the '60s, because it definitely wasn't. Not that I was alive in the '60s, but it had the same thing. People were like, oh, music had a bit of a more. It was like a bit of a somewhat more rebellious time, and it was also good economically. I think a lot like kind of the '60s, and now we're in like the mainstream time again. So it's like, trends, like it's not to be anti-trend, it's just trends, and it's
Like Drake.
Yeah, like Drake. Everyone loves Drake except me. um but thinking it from the other, so when I go to the mall, I'm mostly annoyed. I don't like to shop really, period, and when I do, I generally know exactly what I want. And then so the mall is annoying because you're like, okay, there's like 200 stores here, and I need or want one thing, and then I'll go there and then leave, and you have to walk through this like annoying facade of consumerism, and you have no choice. So that irritates me. But a lot of people like to shop, and that's fair game to them. But
Go ahead,
just
sir.
kind of turning around and saying like, okay, that's me as a consumer or a type of consumer or any kind of consumer that goes there like, I want this, and you go there. But what if you're like a store? So if you're a store and you want traffic, right? You want people walking by your store, possibly going into your store. And I just wonder, like, if you're the store owner, is being in a mall way better than being on the street? Because like, there's like usually tons of parking at a mall of some kind or another. People are going there maybe for something else, but then they're forced to walk by your store in the example I just stated of my own. So it's increased traffic. Whereas like if I were to like go to a store that on a street, some random place, I might park in front of it, go into it, leave, and that's it. But if you've got to go in the mall, you're walking past the food court, you're walking past this or that. It's like you're forced into that. Maybe you're going to impulse buy something else. And I think that if you're a store owner, I would see how that would be good. I feel like I'd want my store to be in a place where it's like extra hundreds of people walk by it every day. Maybe they don't go in, but maybe one does. And maybe that wouldn't have happened if you were down on the street,
Well, the mall is a destination, whereas it's possible to have shopping streets that become desirable, become destinations in and of themselves. But the mall is by its very existence a destination. Now you pay a premium to have a store there, obviously, but as a counterpoint to what you said about clothing or about going to the mall, knowing what you want, going in, buying it, and getting the hell out. When you're buying a car and all the car dealerships are lined up, the reason they're doing that partly is to be like, you're going to buy from one of us. If you're looking for a car, this is where you come. And Bo was making the point of all the clothing stores. Like if I want to buy clothes, all I know is I need to buy work clothes, or I need to buy summer wear, or I need to buy something like this. And maybe I have now stores that are my go-to stores, but at the very least, they're all put together so that's convenient for me. I'm not driving across town or driving to 3 or 4 different destinations. Park my car, go to store 1, go to store 2, go to store 3, go to store 4, see what the sales are, compare the sales, perhaps get the best deal for me because these guys are in competition with each other and are all there. And I'm also able, instead of buying a t-shirt or a shirt I'm maybe okay with, there's a greater chance of me finding something I will really like, because I have more options, more variety. So those are good things that I can see about shopping. Now, here's the thing: I hate clothes shopping, as Mike mentioned earlier. But if I need to, I'm gonna do it at the mall. I rarely only now am I sort of exploring online clothes shopping. Like if I can get my size sorted out, and I know, especially for work shirts and different things like that, I can go on and place an online order and have them delivered. But I do think, and I think malls are feeling this, the internet, and I mentioned earlier digital distribution, then are kind of taking over the world. Bo mentioned that as an adult, he goes for things like movies and games and all that sort of stuff. I'm the same, or except for the clothes that I have to get. The things I want to go see are movies and games, and they're all now distributed to me digitally in my own home at the click of a button. So my interest level in going to the mall used to be to go into EB Games or go into HMV, and now I don't care. I don't even go into those stores when I go, because I'm like, why would I do that? I have all that stuff at home, right? So I feel like they are becoming obsolete to a certain type of goer, which I guess I fall into.
Yeah, it's the changing face of commerce is one where like we can get a lot of stuff delivered through Amazon and through eBay. Um, but I think the premise of the mall is this: we've said the same thing all in a different way. We go for a specific reason, right? But the trap is you're in the mall. So the idea is something draws you into the mall, but maybe you buy a bit of lunch, and maybe you see a cool thing that you didn't know existed. Like you go into Radio Shack and see some piece of junk that they freaking sell at the Radio Shack, the electronic, and you're like, oh, maybe I'll buy that. It's cool. And maybe you're going for a pair of pants, but they got a 2-for-1 deal, and all of a sudden you're buying pants, socks, and shirts because it seems like value. Like there's a full-on manipulation to the mall experience. And I think this is true of the big box malls. So we talk a lot about the indoor malls, but there's also the outdoor malls where the Walmarts and the Home Depots, the more floor space and either bigger value because there's more there, whether it's in price or just in selection.
But it's funny, even the traditional malls still have those. They're like the big anchors, right? Like usually there's like in Canada like the Bay and like a Sears or an Eaton's. I think Eaton's is dead now. I can't remember, but anyways, like at either end of like a mall, there's like the giant floor space department store, which has which sells basically everything that everyone else sells, just all in one big store. And
Mm-hmm.
then throughout the mall, it's parsed out. I guess one of the things that I find interesting because it's like you think of the mall, it's like okay, well the mall as opposed to what, and Crofton basically said it there as opposed to maybe a shopping district street, and we have a few of those. We live in a small city. I think bigger cities like Toronto or presumably many in the United States, where it's like you could just walk down some street and there's just there's stores, there's this the main drag is like the commerce section. There's stores, there's restaurants, whatever you walk down the street. I feel like the kind of difference, and I sort of live near one of these streets, Bank Street in Ottawa. It's kind of like a commerce street. You walk
It
down,
is, yeah, for sure.
yeah, restaurants, stores, whatever. It goes on for a long time. But the difference is for that between the mall is that like directly behind all these stores, there's just houses. Like people live there. It's integrated, and I feel like that's the thing that's different. So, but when you go to the mall, it's like it's just commerce. Like there's no it's
Yeah.
literally walled off from anything
Yeah.
that's not commerce. Whereas when you're walking down a street, there might be a park. You might be like, oh, I'll go sit in a park and eat this hot dog I got from the street vendor, whatever, and then you enjoy a tree or something like that. But when you're in the mall, like it's this it's completely it's like commerce encapsulated in this building. And I guess that always irks me because I'm kind of anti-consumerist, and it's like the building of consuming. There's no other reason you'd go there.
It's true.
Whereas the main drag, you might go to visit friends and you're going to go walk down and get an ice cream or something. And then, there's a store. Maybe you go in it, maybe you don't, whatever. It's just like, I feel it's a more natural mix of how people live. You're going to consume something. We live in a consumer society. You're going to consume something. But the mall is like, it's just like the epitome of it. It's like condensed.
Well, it's the modern iteration of like the market, right? Because the point of the market is a convenient location that you can reliably go to get the goods that you want. Like I'm thinking all throughout history before its iteration now, which is a building with ventilation, with air stuff like air circulation, with as you said, this claustrophobic sense of people trying to appeal to your all of your senses, your vision, your sound, your sensory experience being in the mall. The whole thing's designed to appeal to you to buy, and if you don't buy anything and hang out, you're pretty much welcome to do that because eventually you'll buy.
But
And
just to jump in, because I think your market analogy is an interesting one, but I think it's also um, it's a modern iteration. I would agree with you on that, except the main difference I think is that the mall is private property. Like you can be escorted out of the mall. There's security. They lock the doors at night. Someone owns the mall, right? But whereas the market, the like traditional market was probably a public place where people went and set up their shops and you could go and other things happened there and maybe other kinds of business happened there, but it wasn't owned by someone who was like, you may come in at this time or you may not, and charge everyone rent. I feel
you
like
don't
the
think to occupy
traditional,
a spot they had to pay a fee or something or get a license
perhaps
for?
at some point, but I feel like, if you said going way back, I guarantee there was a time where it was
Sure,
just the kind of central part.
sure.
No one was like, I own the square, you pay me this. I mean, there were times where it was more fluid. And I feel like now it's really like someone's like, hey, I got a business venture. I'm going to build a mall, and we got to get a couple anchor tenants, and then lease out all the stores. It's a specific business, whereas the
Mm.
old school market was more of a public entity, a place where people went to trade or whatever.
But go,
I mean, I agree that it's the modern iteration. I wasn't totally
but
disagreeing.
I said earlier, and I stand by, balls are in our society still are destinations. Like they are, like when people are talking about what they're doing, especially around during the winter time in Ottawa over the weekend. Like I mean, they're going to Bayshore Mall, they're going to Saint Laurent Mall. These are malls that serve as sort of anchor points for activities. Some of which is shopping, some of it is buying food. Other times there's like activity centers surrounding the mall or things attached to the mall.
Like a movie theater.
Exactly, arcades back in the day. Um, the malls are also, I find increasingly. Um, they serve target or niche audiences. So, for instance, in the city we live in, there's the oldest mall in the city actually serves the senior clientele, and so you go there and there's a lot of gray hair and a lot and the stores that are in that mall are focused on that target market
Like they're mostly orthopedic shoes stores
and dentures and yeah
and
and,
hat stores. You
and
wouldn't wear the hat.
Sears.
Sears.
And then the downtown mall is the closest that this city has to, I guess, a hip mall for the young folk with the trendy and sometimes expensive clothing stores and this sort of thing. And then of course there's suburban malls where you see a lot of strollers being pushed around and young kids and that sort of thing. So they all have their target
And you
demographics.
forgot the new outlet mall.
Outlet, yes,
Yeah,
there's
which is a
outlet
different
malls.
kind of niche too. Yeah.
Right, exactly, and for the spendthrift amongst us. But what I'm trying to say, I think, with regards to malls being destination and in them having all these sort of target things, is that the idea of what they're peddling, aside from shopping, is convenience and accessibility. So when Mike was talking about the main street, that's all nice and good. He lives right there next to one. Not everybody does, and therefore it's like parking there can be a huge bitch. I know, I've done it many times. It's sometimes the closed garden nature of a mall allows there to be, their own security. So you feel more comfortable about your kids running around than you would in, like, we live in a nice city, but some cities, maybe the commerce, the open nature of the street or the cars going by or all that can be a risk to your kid, that you just want to go in the mall and not worry about them so much. If they get lost, there'll be somebody that helps them. All that sort of, there's a lot of conveniences, temperature control, all that sort of stuff. So they're peddling a comfortable shopping experience. And that's what makes it a destination. And honestly, I definitely see the appeal of that. And especially we live in a very a climate, a variant climate, where the summer it's very warm, too warm, some would say sometimes. In the winter, it's very, very cold. and to go outside between all these stores, like there's a convenience to just go and have them all in one place inside one building. Is having a young child myself, I've gone a couple of times during the winter where I've very much appreciated. So I can see the benefit to it, but I think that as a society we're moving to less malls. Part of me is hoping, part of me feels that just the way the economy is going, it's going to be less malls. But let's not shy away from that's the positive. The negative, in my view, is a lot of what has already been said is the fact that these essentially are locations that epitomize the spending and disposable nature of society, like the capitalistic society that we live in. So, I mean, there is so much. You walk in a mall, you look at those garbage pails are like overflowing with like plastic cups and stuff like that. And in Canada, we're not nearly as bad as in the States. You go into you see junk everywhere. There's so much disposable shit that you can buy that is just immediately thrown away. Or there's a lot of marketing teams, and I've been a member of one of these teams that set up shop and are giving out free like wristbands and junk like that. And so, I mean, it is sort of an icon for the worst excesses of North American, in particular, society, I think.
Well, and and this comes back. It is funny that we just talked about skyscrapers, and we in that episode we talked about suburbs, and this episode, it's a bit of a crossover between urban planning and sort of consumer culture and whatever, because part of it is the fact, like, it seems convenient and to be like, okay, there's a central place where all the stores are, and it's convenient because the design of the area is one of not is based around the car. And it was the same, when we talked about suburbs, they're designed around cars, and so it doesn't matter if you're far from a commercial district. It's cheaper for a developer to be like, okay, giant block of houses here, surrounded by 5 other giant blocks of housing, and then it's just put another block of commercial over there. Who cares if it's a 45-minute walk for someone to get there, or an hour walk? They'll just take their car, and we'll have a giant parking lot, and that's how it's designed. And you mentioned that I live on near these streets, and so do you, Crofton, the kind of Commerce street. But the interesting thing about that, and it's become a bit more of a destination now. People come here, and it's like parking's a bit of a headache sometimes and whatever. But it's because the neighborhood I live in was designed like 120 years ago when there was no cars. And so that's how it was designed on a more human scale. It was very much like, okay, well, houses are here, so you have to have things like grocery stores where people, general stores, hardware stores, which my neighborhood has all of these things.
Except Lansdowne.
What?
Except Lansdowne.
Well, it's got a grocery store in it.
The Lansdowne is like a giant outdoor mall complex that was designed last year, right?
Oh, it's new. Yeah. That's the one, exactly. But it's interesting that the one new is just sort of designed, and it got a lot of criticism for that, for being just designed how you design a big suburban sort of strip mall, whereas the rest of the community is like, there's this commercial street, maybe with a few streets with a little bit of commercial kind of spilling off them. Mostly it's residential. You walk to the main drag, you can get everything you need. Everything's walkable, because when you had no cars, that's what you did. And then it's a draw for people to, like, oh, these neighborhoods, and the real estate's expensive because it's got everything you need. The bottom line is, like, it's like the cars have dictated how we design our whole societies, and it's all around like blocks of this and blocks of that. It's just and I guess for me, that's what bugs me. There's no elegance in it, right? There's no, like, it's just it's like it's not thought out. I feel like, to me, an elegantly designed place, or one that's naturally designed just of how people live, which is one where you can live here, your work's not too far away, you can walk to work or take a bike or whatever, and then you can buy kind of whatever you need all around there, and kind of having that replicated as you go. And I mean, people often cite European cities as being like, oh, it's interesting, you go to a European city and it's like, everything's walkable. It's like, yeah, because they were built when there was no cars, and it's like they're designed for a different scale of living. And I just feel like malls are designed around car living, and I feel like we need to move away from that, and we're still building and designing in North America in particular in that way. And I'm like, it's not sustainable.
Is it not sustainable? Like, I mean,
no, it's totally unsustainable. Everyone having a car or two. And mostly, a lot of these families have 2 cars. Someone, I think it was my dad, was telling me he heard a statistic that it's getting up to like 3 cars per family in a lot of like suburbs, because it's kind of like, you might have kids who are teenagers, and it's like, well, you have a car, and then dad goes to play golf, and you're like, well, now I can't get anywhere. I can't get anywhere, and the bus doesn't come for another hour, so we need another car. And then you get another car, and then your kids are older, and you got two of them, and they have one. You keep the old beater car for your kids, and you each have your own car. It's insane, and it's stupid. And I feel like, okay, with the way it's designed now, I'm like, I feel like, okay, maybe you need a car as a family. I have a car, but I'm like, 2 cars or 3 cars for one family is insane. But if someone leaves the house and you functionally can't go anywhere, maybe you need another car. And that's what I mean about sustainability. Like, if we continue having to have families require 2 cars plus just to live where they live, that's not, I don't think that's sustainable. I'm talking about climate change and other types of environmental impact that are related to how we build our cities, particularly in North America.
But we're building homes. The commerce has to go somewhere.
So what I just don't get though, Mike, is like the sort of I get what you're saying. I do, and I agree with it. But like with skyscrapers, I worry about like sort of idealism and naivete sort of meeting somewhere whereas the realities may not be so easy to design a perfect city where everything is set up. I feel like there are limitations that allow for the creation of these malls that we're not thinking of. Like there are big items that we need to buy that need cars to transport them. Or maybe I live next to a street. It's got a lot of great stores, but it doesn't have stores selling everything that I need. So I've got to go to, another street, and then I've got to find parking on that street or whatever. Like not everybody is ever going to be living next to one of these commerce streets unless you had like some sort of the absolute perfect urban design, which is probably utopic and not necessarily realistic. So are malls just natural occurrences once population density gets fairly large? Like you look at the urban center of Ottawa, the Rideau Center is sort of like inside of existing buildings. It just sort of organically fits in there. And you see a lot of these big malls, they sort of organically in big urban centers, they sort of organically exist in the center. I think of Montreal, there's a big underground, all the mall runs underground, they're all interconnected. It's weaved into sort of the fabric of the city. It's not like a giant block that just sits on those exist, don't get me wrong, but I feel like that malls are always going to exist if our society is structured the way it is financially, economically, with capitalistic tendencies, as opposed to, it's not just an urban planning thing. I think malls naturally form in commerce districts.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, yeah, I don't disagree that it's kind of like it's the reality of now, but that doesn't. But I still just don't feel like that's. It's just because it was created this way, and this is a recent thing. This is like we're talking about like 1950s onwards. This is the type of design. That's like, that's a small sliver of human history that we've designed around big blocks. Like, and it's true, like population density, but it's more when we were talking about the skyscraper episode, that's becoming more and more bullshit. Like, you don't need to go to to this central place to work, and like you could do it from anywhere. And there is a growing urban planning movement, and there's a lot of it in Europe, which is around like integrated communities, where they're communities that are, the idea is you have workspace where people could go, where there are businesses could set up, or they could have offices in those areas, and there's residential and commercial all integrated. People don't really have to leave the particular area unless they choose to for whatever purposes. But I guess my feeling around the mall, and it's tied to, and there's still like the downtown malls and those things as well, and they've been made a destination because consumerism is like the engine of our economy, and it's like, and again, it is unsustainable. Like it just is, like, to be like our whole economy propped up on buying shit manufactured at slave labor wages overseas is not sustainable. Like it's not. It will crash at some point, and arguably it kind of been dragging its ass since 2008 because not much has changed since then in terms of the economy.
So when it crashes, what do malls become? Do we get
They become big
sports
dead,
arenas?
And there are some, you can look up these internet in certain places like Detroit and stuff like that, which have
Oh,
imploded
but
for
everything's
economic
dead in
reasons,
Detroit.
where you can look at like abandoned mall pictures on the internet and like they're spooky places. No one, it's interesting. And like, yeah, what do these places become? Like weird ghost towns, like, or
Yeah, but
I agree.
eventually it's still a man-made structure. Eventually, someone's gonna take it and do something. Like we could turn it into housing or something like that.
but
Like,
it's also expensive and difficult to op like a small building is a lot easier to maintain than a gigantic one.
sure,
Like the amount of
yeah, it's
energy
way
to
more
heat a
resources.
space like in an open atrium mall is like kind of insane. And it is nice, and I agree with all the points of like comfortable and convenience of like it's wintertime. I got a kid, and I spent me some time in IKEA, which is just its own mall, and I've enjoyed going there. I'm not all crapping on them. I feel like I play a role in what I feel is unsustainable. I'm part of that society. That doesn't mean I can't say it's like it needs to
No,
change.
no, no. I guess what I feel is like, because I agree with essentially mostly everything you're saying. I just find that people like us get pigeonholed by people that are maybe supportive of malls and saying that we are not realistic in what we're proposing in many ways. And when you're explaining it, sometimes I'm just listening and I'm like, yeah, that doesn't sound like. I mean, I in an ideal, perfect, magical world, like a Sim City video game where I'm like, oh, I can just magically do all this sort of stuff. It kind of I can see where it makes sense, but when the rubber meets the road, like it just feels like we are it, miles away from having like a perfectly structured city, and maybe it's beyond the limitations of my imagination, but I feel like when I go to Montreal in specifically and the downtown core where from I can walk out of a metro stop and then I'm in like sort of a mall that connects to another metro stop, and then I come out and I'm at the university, and then like there's a restaurant street and all this. It just feels like it is kind of well thought out, and in many ways like malls like that I think favorably of the underground malls of Montreal, as opposed to say some of the big blob malls that are on the outskirts of this city. So I just like, while I agree with a lot of the points that Mike's raising, I just at the same time I feel like there's no magic solution, and I feel naive a bit thinking that like that malls are just something that we could do away with without them sort of magically rebuilding themselves, where there's a bunch like you get a commerce street, we're in a low population city. You get a high population. Next thing you know, it's a two-story commerce street. Next thing you know, they built like a glass thing over top of it. Next thing you know, you're in a mall. Like, I mean, it just feels like
Let me
population density leads to the creation
Well,
of,
let me
of
also
commerce centers.
let me also counter too that you were talking about. No one wants to live next to a high traffic area like a mall or whatever. Like it's actually the people. It's not just the selfish mall owners and the people wanting the business. Which of us wants to own next to heavily foot traffic place like that? Like nobody
Well,
does too.
I own next to a commerce street. I live like 3 houses or 4 houses off one of those streets, and it doesn't feel that way because it's integrated. And I mean, to the point of like,
No,
is
but
it
what about the
naive or
people who live on the street? Like, I wouldn't want to live there. I guess is what I'm saying. Like
where I live?
on the actual street because there are residences along the Commerce Street. You
Yeah,
live
some, but
off of
not
it.
many. Like it's pretty. It's funny how much as soon as you're like half
on
a
the
block
second
off it.
story, probably a lot of apartments, right?
Yeah, actually, there's lots of apartments on the
Bo
second story.
Bo lives in one right now off
Yeah,
of
that you
Commerce.
live in one of those.
I know, and it's annoying. Like this Sunday, there was the marathon. So at like
Oh, you poor.
eight in the morning, there's like 5 billion people yelling out my window cheering when dude trying to sleep in because it's the weekend. Like
God, Bo, no offense, but that makes me think. I'm like, that is a neat event. Go out and observe it. It's interesting. Today on my street,
yeah, it'd
there
be a
was
great
protest of
event if it
tractors.
was during normal human hours and
Oh,
not 8 in the morning.
No,
Like
but I
people
think
yelling.
Bo makes a good point. Just because you're interested in the marathon doesn't
I'm
mean
not
he has to
interested in the
be.
marathon.
It just it interferes with it's interfering with his life. So living off those, there are compromises
Like
you make.
I
I
can't.
understand how Mike's like, oh,
Yeah,
my thing is it's perfectly integrated,
yeah.
but I think it's true. Most people would not want to live off a commerce
Also,
street. They want to
also,
have a buffer,
to add to that, and I make do, but if you want to go and pick up your newspaper, not that anyone has one, in your house coat, you probably can, and a few people you see or whatever. I'm on a Commerce Street. Everyone's dressed super great out there, you know, like, or whatever. Like, I always feel like, God, when I wake up and I've got like snot in my nose and crust in my eyes and I haven't cleaned my ears and I smell like I haven't bathed in 3 days, like, I go out and there's people everywhere, you know? It's just like, why am I living here?
I call that like that's like life, you know. Like it's nice.
No,
to be,
because if you live somewhere off, you walk out and you're not in close proximity to people. I have the barbershop guys. I hear them talking all the time because they bring the chairs outside and they're blah 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 all day, and I can't tell them to stop. It's part of their charm for the business.
So basically, you don't like people, and you should probably
no. It's that you're not.
I think Bo's raising interesting points, and you're just
taking it
shitting
to
on
the
them
extreme.
because
Yes,
I like people, but people go to the mall when they're ready to go to the mall or they're ready to go to Commerce Town. And most people, even if you live 2 seconds away from it down the road, like you do, you have a buffer. I don't have a buffer. Like my
we
world,
live right
my
on
home,
it, but I mean, like that buffer can be pretty
my
tiny.
home world is.
But I feel like that general
is right
sentiment
there.
is part of the problem. Like human selfishness of like, I don't like this, and I don't want it to be near me. So I'd rather it be way off there. And when I'm good and ready to damn well go there, I'll get in my car and I'll drive there. And everyone's like that. It's like human nature to be kind of selfish and not like anything you don't want.
I don't think
but
it's
right now.
selfish to have a mall, to have
It's
a place
selfish
where
for
the
you to be like,
commerce takes
to me,
place.
to be like annoyed by a marathon, which is like 30,000 people running on once a year, and you're like, it woke me up. I hate being next to this. I'm like, you sound like a whiner. That's what living in a vibrant city is, and a lot of people would think that's cool. And you're just like, it's annoying. Why couldn't it be out in the suburbs where it didn't bother anyone?
It's cool, but it's at 8 in the morning.
Well, yeah, look, okay, stuff happens in a city, and I just feel like people, and I think it's driven by kind of selfishness and self-centeredness, which is kind of how we design. Is it like, I don't want to ever be bugged, and I want everything to be convenient for me now, and I don't want to ever deal with anything else. But I feel like the reality of like culture and society, it's like there's a whole mishmash of people, and it's like I feel like it should be more integrated. Because that's just aspects.
But
of
it
life.
sounds like you're advocating that no one should feel bugged by anything because we have to live with compromise.
Yeah, you are kind of saying like everybody doesn't like things, but screw them, or they want this, but screw them. They should have it like this because I want it integrated.
I also
it's
think
not a compelling argument.
this. I mean, it's fair enough. We live in North America, but this is a very North American way to look at it. Like when you travel, and I actually haven't been to Europe, but my wife studies urban design and works for the city, and a lot of European cities are like go-to places to look at how urban design integrates livable cities, right? And because oftentimes they're old and we're designed differently. And I spent a lot of time in Asia where there's like commerce and I think there's big malls there too, but commerce and business and residential, it's just like a big mishmash. And I just feel like we live in this place that was like it's a new, a lot of development is newer here by the standards of the rest of the world, and I just think we've blocked it off a lot. And the car industry, which was the economic engine and still is largely of North America, is driving the way we live. So when Crofton says, and I think it's really astute to point out, like it seems naive and utopic, but I feel like that's because most of us, and I include myself in this, have trouble seeing beyond what's in front of our noses, which was put there by people just like us not that long ago. And yet we have difficulty seeing that the world can be any different because it is this way. But how else can you achieve change unless you try to envision something that isn't as it is? And I'm like, I just feel like urban design, the way we plan our cities, is just totally backwards. And I feel sad for us that we're like, but that's just how it is, Like it's only been like that for like 50 years, for God's sakes.
Just to change tact, and I don't normally like to research shit, but I was just curious where the world's biggest malls were. And it's funny because I'm looking at the list. There's a Wikipedia article, and the first American mall is like 30th on the list, and almost all of the biggest malls are either in China, the Philippines, or Iran, which
there's nothing from Saudi Arabia in there or United Arab Emirates. They got some.
What's
crazy
KSA?
malls.
It's the second biggest. What's KSA here? Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Okay.
There you
Yeah,
go.
it has the second biggest.
There you go.
But then it's like it's 3 Chinese malls, 2 Philippine malls, 2 Iran malls, 1 Malaysia one Philippines, Thailand, Turkey, Philippines. Oh man, Philippines
And
is
So
love their big
here's
malls.
there's
it's
a few
interesting that you
elements.
mentioned that because I think I've been in some of those malls. I've definitely been in massive ones in Bangkok, and I've been probably in the one in Malaysia too.
Wow, you don't brag too much, do you?
Go
I
ahead.
just he said he wasn't in Europe earlier, which is
Okay, but hang on. I need to say something about this too because
Yeah,
it adds to the
interesting that Europe was-
conversation. It adds to the conversation that we talked about skyscrapers, but malls also feature like malls are malls and they're everywhere. And sure, you can dislike like I think they're obnoxious places that I hate going. Now as an adult, I would actively avoid malls. But some of them are built to be like well, not world wonders, but some of them are built with the same way that casinos and skyscrapers are built. Like you have these crazy gigantic ones like the Edmonton Mall. Isn't that our big mall in Canada? Like that's the crazy one with a roller
the
coaster
West
in it.
Edmonton. Yeah, it's
So
got
like
a
there
bungee
are
and
malls
everything.
that are just destinations. And let me tell you about a pet peeve because we didn't mention it yet and I need to get it out there. So I don't travel much. Mike just listed off a whole bunch of places he's been to, and that's great. I'm happy for him. I haven't traveled much, but when I do travel, people I've been with, they want to visit the fucking mall in like, oh, let's go to Boston or let's go to Toronto. Let's go to the mall or in Montreal. And I'm like, I don't want to go there. And it's like the same stores. There's nothing special in these North American destinations about visiting a mall. It drives me nuts going to visit places of commerce in other places. And I'd say that's just personal taste, except it's not like there are unique wares there. I imagine, Mike, when you traveled to visit the malls, you saw cool things that you wouldn't see here, so it made it an adventure. But good lord, if you're if you're in white people land, I mean there are other cultures here, but the predominantly white world of North America, don't fucking visit malls when you go to other cities.
And it's funny.
and
I
places.
have visited malls, and I also think that some places in Asia are like, we talk about capitalism being insane and consumerism here. I feel like it's even more insane there, and it's like because it just seems like it's everywhere. Every street you walk down, there's something to buy everywhere. It's insane. And then they'll have these giant malls. So I did visit this mall in Bangkok, and my takeaway from it was like, wow, the malls we have in Canada are pieces of garbage in terms of mall. Like, so if you're thinking like, oh, you go to the mall, it's like a big mall. Not only giant mall, like giant malls of like glistening, and I think of like Bangkok, for example, is like a kind of rough city. It's like a ton of poor people, and like it's kind of it's got its ratty parts. But the mall, it's like you go in there, and you're like, oh man, this is like everything's glimmering, gleaming, marble, everything. And there was in this on like the fifth floor of this giant mall, there's like a Lamborghini store in a mall, and I was like, how do you even get the Lamborghini out of the store? It's on the fifth floor, and who buys a Lamborghini at the mall? And I was just like, this is
Okay,
insane.
I have a question. Oh, sorry, I just really wanted to add. But you recorded Good, Bad, or Bullshit from a coffee shop. Was it in a mall?
No, I was some guest house. That was
I thought maybe you were in a coffee shop at one point. At Bo's Coffee, actually. Remember Bo's Coffee?
Oh, that was some place, but no, I didn't record from that.
Before Mike gets too caught up on the glistening, large, shiny, luxurious malls of Bangkok, I'd like to move to verdicts because
Yes.
I feel like I've sort of hit my wits end on malls.
Croft has been thinking about that penis reference for like 10 minutes, and I kept
What?
interrupting. I
Bo,
can see his
you are
face.
gross. I did not even think that. That is disgusting.
Oh, well,
All right,
wow.
bring in the farm animals.
Why are you blaming me? You're the one who's obsessed with Bangkok.
It's true. It's my fault. You're right. Order in the cart.
I'll
Verdict
go
time.
first. So
I'll go second.
I think it's kind of obvious what I'm going to say. I'll just get it out of the way. Malls are bad. I feel like the mall is like the icon of what's wrong with our goddamn world. I feel like it's this veneer of clean, like glistening consumerism that covers a facade of like shitty low wage jobs, like throwaway society, and doesn't even like when I've been to these malls and places, like even just thinking of that Bangkok one where you're like, this is nothing like the culture in which it lives. And it's also culture of like it's just like there's no culture. It's of X culture. You go to a mall in any place, it's like the same. You could be anywhere. Like, what's the point of traveling and going to visit a mall? Your point, Bo, is like it's insane to be like, oh, let's go visit the mall. Like, hey, look, there's a Gap. Like, oh, great! I've experienced a local culture of what a great travel experience. Malls are garbage. We should get rid of them. They like the whole way we design our cities is like we're going to hell in a handbasket, and the mall is going to be like leading the way. So yeah, bad.
Geez, Mike, tell us what you really think.
I don't like malls.
All right, I'll go next. I was trying to defend malls a little bit. I had a time in my life where I like going to malls. I am limited maybe by imagination, but I definitely don't see a world right now without malls. They just are a part of it. That kind of made me want to lean to bullshit, but Mike's points are well made. They are a tremendous drain of resource. They symbolize and epitomize a lot of what's wrong with society, the great excesses in this. So I won't go on too long. I'll just say that I also think that malls in general are bad.
Well now. All right, so I felt like I was pretty quiet this episode. Although, it's kind of... I'm super impressed, especially with Mike having such a strong opinion on malls. Because when you think of malls, you kind of think, like, it's a benign place where I buy things. And apparently, it's a scourge on the modern world. And I think I commiserate with Crofton a bit in that I do have fond memories of getting into trouble at malls, of looking forward to buying cool shit at malls as a kid and a teenager and maybe even a young adult. But as I've developed, I strongly dislike going to mall places. The sensory experience is obnoxious and I feel pandered to, and I feel like the look of it feels unnatural in a way that is somehow unsettling, but it would be hard to really articulate what it is. So I kind of, and sometimes I get angry in the mall. Sometimes I just get angry in the mall. Like, and it's not at the people. I like places with people, but generally the storefronts piss me off. A lot of stuff about malls really set me off. And so I'm going to come down and say that malls are bad.
Yeah, unanimous.
I think I like the character of those commercial roads that Mike has talked about, and I like ordering things online. So there's a reason why that's becoming more and more popular, because people fucking don't like going to malls. So all you real estate developers, go away, and they'll find some other way to ruin our lives. But malls are pretty shitty.
So triple bads, I'd like to go back and see when the last time, if ever, we gave triple bads. I feel like
gave war triple bad.
Yeah.
Malls and more.
Did we give death? Like, because death we
No,
did.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Hodgins. So Hodgins, good for death, bad for malls.
Listen to that though. Anyways, listen to that.
Well,
Listen to
it makes sense. Mike would rather die than spend the rest of his life in a mall.
No, it's not even that.
Don't get him started, please.
I know. Okay, we'll get you started.
So yeah, if you have an opinion on malls, we'd like to hear from you, mall defenders, if you're out there. Tumbleweeds going by right now. You wouldn't notice though because we're in a mall. So goodbadbull.com is the website. You can find everything there. All our previous episodes, we got the archives up there. You can reach us, give us your ideas, your feedback, goodbadbull@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter @goodbadbull. You'll find out when the latest episode drops and all that good stuff. Also, we got a Facebook group. Good Bad Bull is the word. Facebook.com/goodbadbull. And we'd like to thank our Patreon supporters. You can go to patreon.com/goodbadbull. I'm assuming. I forget, but I think so. And support us. Every little bit helps. We really appreciate it. To those of you who already do, thank you so much. And of course, we are individuals of an individual nature. And you can follow us all somewhere. Butch. No, I'm Butch. Cass. Wait. Horse. Where can people follow you, Horse?
They can follow me at Bo Schwartz, and I do want to drop one other little note here real quickly. If you're enjoying the show, if you're one of the few but awesome people that have found the show and enjoy it, and go to iTunes, please, and review our show. I'm not going to tell you to give us 5 stars because that would undermine the nature of our show, but it's really great hearing feedback, and we'd love to see some activity. And don't think someone else is going to do it because we have a small audience. So please go and review our show. That's my request. That's my homework for
the
listeners.
Show sucks. 1 star.
That's fine.
Freedom of choice, listener.
I want your honest answer. I don't want you to pander to us. We don't pander to you, and we do.
Yeah, okay. Show. Horse, where can they follow you?
Sundance.
I said at Bo Schwartz.
Oh,
Sundance.
right. Okay. You can find my tweets shitting on malls. I might just do a tweet very after the show shitting on malls. Malls suck.
Do it.
At ML Hodgins.
And you can follow me at Crofton Steers on Twitter as well. Gentlemen, one thing I was thinking about during our conversation on malls was George Romero's it's Dawn of the Dead. I think that was the one that was set in the mall. And it's kind of a take on consumer culture, and they had like sort of the zombies and all this. And ever since then, malls have been a place that people tend to take shelter from the zombie apocalypse. And I must say that if the zombie apocalypse did happen, I would very much consider taking shelter in a mall.
Man, I wouldn't. I'd go in the fucking woods.
That sounds like a bad idea.
Why? There's no dead people. There's no people there to turn into zombies.
Well, they're gonna.
If I was a zombie, I'd be like, I want to eat someone. Where am I gonna go? Oh, people like the mall. I'll go there.
No, but like once you kill all the zombies in the mall, you just close off the mall. You've got all the resources from all the stores.
How did it work out for them again in the movie? I don't. I feel like it wasn't like a utopia.
It worked out real good.
Sealed off from all our woes.
Well, it's fictitious.
It's a fictitious story. They got to make it seem bad, but in reality, the mall would be awesome. It's just
it would be just a smart place. You have a lot of stuff that you could use to fight zombies too. You know,
like a Lamborghini.
I wanted to point out, I thought this was funny because you were asking about last time we had all bads, unanimous bads, and it was prisons. Was the last time?
Oh, really?
But I find funny for me the last thing I rated bad was consumerism, like 12 shows ago. And I'm like, oh, that fits in, and it makes sense that I hate them all if I also hate consumerism.
It's true.
When Bo was talking, and with both your verdicts also made me more angry, but I just got images of the storefronts and mannequins and like posters of people living these like bullshit like lives, which I was just like, the mall. I hate the mall.
It's funny. You know, Mike. At least they have all the doors at the mall open, both doors to get into a building.
Oh, let my dad know that.
They're both unlocked, so you go. Some of them automatically open for you. You can tell your dad that.
Those are the best ones. He likes probably when they both open simultaneously.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing for him.
Your dad should hang out at more malls.
Yeah, it's just funny when Mike's going off on the malls there. Like I see flashes of his dad. I'm like,
oh, yeah.
I'm just like the malls. Oh God, I tell you, Michael, you go to the malls, and there's people all over the place, and they don't know what they want, and like there's just ads and money, and it's crazy. I think I'll go right now. I'll buy 3 iPhones.
All right, live streamers, VOD watchers, live stream viewers, thank you for
Bye, Mr.
watching.
H.
Mr. H.
We'll check you out on the next episode. Goodbadbill.com. See ya.
I have a